So some huge news just came out from the Federal Trade Commission, I believe yesterday, January 5th, 2023. If you're an employer or even in your business, if you hire independent contractors, this is going to affect you if it goes into effect. They have proposed a rule. Let me share my screen. And they are proposing a rule in which you can no longer use any kind of non-compete clause, no matter who the person is, what level of employee they are. It's going to be a complete ban on all non-compete clauses. And this is the Federal Trade Commission. So this is at a federal level. So they believe that it's anti-competitive and hurts workers. So it harms competition. The Federal Trade Commission does have the right to propose rules and enforce things that violate anti-competition between businesses. So they proposed this rule, and they feel that it could help increase workers' earnings because of the impact on the labor market from non-compete clauses. So if you look at the reason that they're proposing this is the actual proposed rule that they just proposed. Categorical ban on all non-compete clauses because they obstruct the labor market competition for all workers. They block workers in the labor market from switching jobs and harming workers. Let's see. And basically, they think that it would help increase the labor market. So it's pretty lengthy because it talks about the background and the proposed rule that they're talking about. They're asking for comment on this. And if after the comment period, they feel that they want to implement it, then there will be a 60-day period before it goes live, essentially, and effective. And what this does is, even if you have an existing non-compete with your employees or independent contractors, you would then have 180 days, basically 6 months, to void and provide notice to everyone that you give a non-compete and say that no longer applies to them. So there's about only one exception in here, and that has to do with the sale of a business. So right now, each state has their own laws regarding whether a non-compete is enforceable. So if you have an employee and they sign a non-compete saying, if I leave the company for a 5-year period, I can't work for a competing business within 50 miles or whatever it says. Each state has their own laws to say whether that's valid or not, whether you have to have certain limitations. For example, in California, it's very restrictive. Non-competes are generally not enforceable unless it's tied to certain specific things like the sale of a business. Some states, it's almost wide open. You can enforce a non-compete clause. This would have a blanket ban on all states, no non-competes except in the sale of a business. And the person basically that it would apply to would have to own at least 25% or more of the business that's being bought or sold for it to apply to where you could have a non-compete with them. But that's about the only circumstance under this rule that would allow you to have a non-compete in place. And you'd have to get rid of any prior non-competes. So it's huge sweeping change on a regulatory side from the Federal Trade Commission. Obviously, there's going to be all kinds of probably lawsuits, legal challenges to whether they can do this. Is it going too far beyond the scope of what they're allowed to do? So I'm sure there's going to be battles in court for years potentially. But anyone who has employees or independent contractors needs to understand that non-competes could go away. However, there are ways to still protect yourself with things like non-solicitation, saying that if you no longer work here, you can't solicit or take away our existing customers. You can't solicit or take away our employees if you leave and start a competing business. You still would be able to put that into your contracts. And also you can protect things like trade secrets and confidential information, saying that your employee can't leave and use trade secrets or confidential information and start a competing business using your proprietary information. So you can still use those methods basically to protect your business, but a traditional non-compete would no longer be available to you. So stay attention to the news and see whether this goes into effect. And if it does, then you have to look at any potential contract that you have that might have a non-compete and make sure that your non-solicitation, trade secrets, confidentiality, those type of clauses are in there to help protect your business if the non-competes completely go away. So we'll see where this goes.